Okay, good evening to the session on TPM. TPM is total productive maintenance. Basically, a Japanese concept. I'm happy to share the information as an awareness session with you all. As you all know, the breakdown maintenance started when the first machine was installed in the world. So, breakdown maintenance is nothing but you install a machine, wait for it to break down, then repair it and make it okay. So, that was the first maintenance a man has learned. And in the 1950s, people realized the necessity for a preventive maintenance. So that's how they started doing some kind of a cleaning, inspection, oiling. They used to call, some people used to call overhauling, and the preventive maintenance has stepped in order to prevent the deterioration and the periodic inspection or equipment condition diagnosis. There came the periodic maintenance, what is called a time-based maintenance. They fixed a particular time, say once in a month or once in 15 days, and started maintaining the machines. Another concept came in, which is called predictive maintenance. It's also known as condition-based maintenance. So what they normally do, they check certain parameters of each machine at regular interval, understand the conditions, and started taking corrective actions based on that. For example, replacement of coolant oil or air, or you can even talk about some analysis like the thermal analysis. Some people even use a stethoscope to check the condition of the machines, to check for any abnormal sounds. So that is called a condition-based maintenance. There is also a concept which came in as corrective maintenance. So if there are any weaknesses in the design of the machine, so the experience says what are the corrective actions to be done. The equipment with design weakness is redesigned for improving the reliability. That's called corrective maintenance. Then the concept of maintenance prevention came in 1960, which is one step above the corrective maintenance, which means you also understand what is the design problem of the machine and inform the machine supplier so that the design problem is avoided. So the weakness of current machine is sufficiently studied and shared with the equipment manufacturer. So necessary changes are made in the design of the new machines. So before TPM has come in, these were the history of types of maintenances. Even now, these are currently in use. But TPM is the one which encompasses all those things. The founder of Marshall Institute, George Smith, he used the philosophies of best practices of US and Japan. So by combining the best practices of US and Japan, he came up with the philosophy of total productive maintenance. In 1950, he went to Japan. He was invited to Japan rather to teach principles of preventive maintenance. At that point of time, there is a guy by name Seiichi Nakashima, an engineer from Japan, who was the interpreter for him all through. So he took all the inputs and he developed TPM in the early 70s. In the 1950s, the beneficiary was Nippon Denso, and in the 1970s, Nakashima developed a TPM, which is a hybrid for preventive and predictive maintenance, mixing these two together and several engineering methods. So it also carried a very important principle of thorough employee involvement. So all the employees will be involved in the hybrid of preventive and predictive maintenance. So Nakashima was instrumental in incorporating the best known maintenance system in one organized approach. So he has put everything in a silver pattern and called it a TPM. He also learned reliability and maintainability engineering, life cycle in costing, zero defects, preventive and predictive maintenance, operator assisted maintenance, and task teams. So, as a result of his work, Toyota was able to significantly reduce the equipment related problems. They have a movement called just in time. You must be very familiar with this concept by now, which is a JIT. So, Toyota applied these principles and successfully implemented the JIT. They did it by minimizing the delays caused by equipment problem, and TPM is a total contributor in streamlining the flow of production. So, with this background, now you can see what is the TPM. It is maximizing equipment effectiveness through involvement of all supporting departments, which means your equipment will be effectively run. The supporting departments will be involved very actively. So the goal of TPM is to improve overall productivity by optimizing equipment availability. Fundamentally, you will get higher equipment time so that you have higher productivity, and all the people are involved in making the equipment availability. Now, as the word says, total productive maintenance. Total is nothing but all employees are involved with an objective of eliminating accidents, defects, and breakdowns. Productive means production of goods and services that meet or exceed our customer expectations. So, in order to achieve that, actions are performed while production goes on. That is, while running the machine itself, you are doing the maintenance, and production challenges are also minimized by maintaining the machines. So, maintenance means keep the machines in good condition, you repair them, clean them, lubricate them, inspect them, tighten them. Whatever is needed to maintain the machine in the running condition, you have to do while the machine is running. So, in short, productivity improvement of the machines through the involvement of everyone. So, what is TPM to the organization? It is overall equipment effectiveness that goes up significantly. It reduces firefighting to repair the machines. It provides operating costs. Is better able to meet commitments to customers and improved ability to compete in the world markets. It also benefits the employees because they have less pressure on maintenance. There is no firefighting for urgent maintenance. Better cooperation between maintenance, production, and other departments. Then reduce the chance of accidents, higher job satisfaction, and improved security for all the employees. Now, if you ask why TPM, finding out the advantages of TPM, it avoids wastage in quickly changing economic environment, produce goods without reducing the product quality. It also reduces cost. It produces low batch quantity at earliest possible time. This is another important thing. You are able to produce lower batch quality at the earliest possible time because some companies will have a resistance in accepting the batch sizes, minimum batch sizes. I know there are companies which can even produce single pieces also to the customer. Goods sent to the customer must be non-defective. So, from an accountant's perspective, TPM is a management way to reduce the cost and enhance the bottom line. So, in this presentation, I am going to speak about how the TPM is resulting, what are the concepts of TPM, and how it is helping you in improving the bottom line. There is an institute called Japanese Institute of Plant Maintenance, which is the highest level of institute at Japan for maintenance purposes. It is also giving away the awards to the best maintained TPM company. And according to JAPM, the benefits are TPM establishes a corporate culture that will maximize the system effectiveness. TPM is organizing a practical shop floor system to prevent losses before they occur, like zero accidents, zero defects, and zero breakdowns. TPM involves all functions of organization, including production, development, sales, and management. TPM also achieves zero losses through the activities of overlapping small groups. These are the four broad benefits as specified by JIPM. If you want to understand about TPM in detail, you need to understand the 8 pillars of TPM. Team working is a base for the TPM. And you can see there are 8 pillars: individual improvement, autonomous maintenance, planned maintenance, quality maintenance, initial phase and control of products and equipment, office TPM, education and training, safety, health and environment. On these 8 pillars, you have overall production efficiency, overall equipment effectiveness. All these things are managed, and the losses and waste are significantly reduced. So this is how you have to read these 8 pillars. So I have pleasure in explaining each of the pillars to a little bit extent. I can showcase some of the examples of each of the pillars. Look at the first pillar, talks about individual improvement. In Japanese, this is known as Kobetsu Kaizen. The purpose of this pillar is to realize zero losses of all. There are so many hidden losses and open losses taking place in a company. So the purpose of this is to realize zero losses and also to demonstrate ultimate production efficiency. This is done through activities like understanding the 16 major losses. As we go along, we'll see what are the 16 major losses taking place in any company. So the pillar enables you to understand the 16 major losses, understanding and setting targets of overall equipment efficiency, productivity, and production subsidiary resources. Implementation of phenomena mechanism analysis. Phenomenon mechanism analysis is you specify any failure. The failure is called a phenomenon. You analyze the mechanism behind the phenomenon, then take the corrective action. Permanently, the phenomenon will not occur. So, through the pursuit of production and equipment as it should be, which means the equipment is maintained as it should be without any losses. So, the people involved will be the staff and the line leader. Now, expanding this pillar, on an overall basis, there are 6 major losses. Out of defect, arising out of downtime, arising out of speed. From defective point of view, one is defects in the process, second is reduced yield between start of the production and stable production. That is, when the production is started up, before it stabilizes, there is a waste. So these two are defects. Second is the downtime. One is equipment failure. Second is setup and adjustments. One, the equipment breaks down. Second, the equipment takes a lot of time for setting up. It may be from changeover from one variant to the other variant, or any other thing, which is even the first setup of a first sample. So all these things are downtimes. Speed losses, idling losses, minor stoppages. The equipment may be idle, but still the time is calculated. There are minor stoppages which are not taken care of. Reduced speed, it is actual operating versus design. A machine may be designed to run at 100, but it is run at 80. So these are speed losses. So in short, these are the 6 major losses which are identified. And as we go along, you see these are divided into 3 categories: availability, performance, and quality. So the unplanned stoppages, cooling, cooling failure, unplanned maintenance, overheated bearing, motor failure, etc. These are called unplanned stoppages. These are coming under availability losses. Second category is setup and adjustments like setup, changeover, material shortage, operator shortage, nature adjustment, warm up time, etc. These come under availability loss. Now, small stops, component jam, minor adjustment, sensor block, delivery block, cleaning, checking, all these things are small stops, performance losses. Slow running, incorrect setting, equipment wear, alignment problem, these are all slow running, resulting in slow running. These are all also under performance losses. Scrap rework, these are quality losses. Again, rejection due to warm up, startup, or other early production, these are all quality losses. So now you can imagine the three types of losses is very important for you to understand: availability, performance, and quality. Now, this can be taken to the deeper level to identify typically in an organization and broken up into 16 different types. Losses that impede equipment efficiency. There are 8 losses. For example, failure losses, breakdown losses, setup, then cutting blade loss, startup loss, minor stoppage, speed loss, then defect, scheduled downtime. These are all arising out of equipment efficiency. And second set is losses that impede human work efficiency. For example, management loss, operating motion loss, line organization loss, logistic loss, measurement and adjustment loss. These are related to human work efficiency. There are 3 losses: energy loss, die and jig and tool break, breakage loss, yield loss. These are related to ineffective usage of production resources. This is a typical breakup of losses in a particular type of an engineering industry. For each of the industry, we can identify such losses in these 3 categories. So when you look for those losses, you analyze those losses, you analyze the cause of those losses, and take corrective action, which means those losses should not recur. So you will be improving the availability, performance, and the quality. The accumulated effect of availability, performance, and quality is called overall equipment efficiency, what we call OEE. So we'll see about it towards the end of the presentation, a case study of how the OEE is improved. Now moving on to the second pillar, which is called Jishu Bhojan. It is also known as autonomous maintenance. The purpose is training of operators proficient in the equipment, protecting one's own equipment by oneself. This involves 7 major activities. Number 1, initial cleanup. Number 2, countermeasures of source problems and measures to difficult to access locations. Number 3, creation of tentative autonomous maintenance standards. Number 4, general inspection. Number 5, autonomous inspection. Number 6, standardization. And number 7, rules management. I'll explain you in the subsequent slides. There are 7 steps involved in this. Fundamentally, there is a paradigm shift taking place. If you look at the machine failures in any organization, what is visible to you is only the failure. What is not visible to you is contamination, wear, loosening, leaks, corrosion, deformation, frost, cracks, vibration, improper temperature, backlash, and many such things are not visible to you. You only see the final, the tip of the iceberg. So autonomous maintenance helps you to look deeper into this iceberg. Used to be earlier, the machine operator will only use the machine. The maintenance fellow will maintain and fix it. From this, it becomes now a responsibility of both of them. The operator will produce as well as do the maintenance. The maintenance fellow will also do the maintenance and take part a little bit in the production activity also. So this will change. It's a paradigm shift to the autonomous maintenance. For example, if you have a vehicle, if the vehicle gets stuck somewhere in the road, you must be able to see at least a couple of things to check and make your vehicle ready. There is a minor stoppage of your vehicle on the road. For example, you take a two-wheeler, you should know at least to change the flat tires. You should know at least to clean the spark plug. Some of these must be known to you. So not only being the driver, but also you should know all these things. So this is the kind of concept which is introduced in the autonomous maintenance. So this is my machine. That's a concept spoken in this. How does it work? So we start with education. First thing is we educate all the employees about the machine. The machine component sheets we make. We break up the machine into various parts. What is each component? How does it work? How it can fail? So the education papers or standards must be prepared by us for each of them, and the operators must be taught as a first step. We call it one-point lessons. One-point lesson means you are explaining the function of the machine. It is used for three purposes. Number one, it gives the basic knowledge. Number two, it talks about an improvement idea. Number three, it also talks about a downtime problem. So as you can see, there is a small, beautiful pictorial information available in this, which is called a one-point lesson. And in this case, you are also seeing it starts with one person and goes to next person. That is, suppose I start with this, then I become the master, and I tell the second person, he understands, he puts his signature in the bottom, then he goes and he teaches the third person. So for the third person, he becomes a master, and the third person becomes master for the fourth person. That's how the chain continues until all the people in the department are covered. So that's how it's called one-point lesson. You are teaching on a basic knowledge, you are teaching on an improvement idea, and you are informing about a downtime problem. So that's how the information is passed on to everyone, and everybody becomes knowledgeable through this one-point lesson. This is another format which is arising out of autonomous maintenance. You will be able to appreciate this format. There are various problems arising in a machine. It may be electrical, mechanical, lubrication related, hydraulic, pneumatic, and water related. And there are 9 types of classes of problem like loosening, raining out, broken, leaking, missing, dirty, difficult to clean, location, then poor design. Suppose I say L7. L7 means it is a lubrication related problem and difficult to clean. I say H2, hydraulic system is worn out. If I say W4, water is leaking. P5 means a pneumatic thing is missing. So you can work with any of these combinations, right? 6 into 9, 54 combinations are possible. So once you identify on any machine, you write down the details of what is the fault and you record it. So it becomes a very good database for repairing a permanently this equipment. So this is called cleaning and inspection machine fault finding sheet. A matrix is formed using the earlier observation. This very clearly tell you what types of problems are there in this machine. This is used for analysis and the machine corrective actions are taken. Again, from the corrective actions, 1 point lessons are made, people are informed, so the machine becomes trouble free as we go along. So this is the beauty of autonomous maintenance. Now I just go back to the 7 steps. It is important for you to understand. We educate the people, them in cleaning up. When you clean the machine, you touch the machine by hand. So you know where are the defects, what type of defects are available. So you are able to address it, you are able to see it personally, what are the defects available and take action. Also, there are places which are not accessible to any machine. So you can take action also to make how the machine part can be accessed. Using your knowledge, you are creating the autonomous maintenance standards by way of 1 point lessons, by way of check sheets, by way of other SOPs, and so on. And you also create a general inspection procedure. You also carry out an autonomous inspection procedure. Create the standards for all these things. Then achieve your goals. So this is the step of autonomous maintenance. To simply put it, my machine. The concept is my machine. Pillar number 3 is planned maintenance, which is called Kaikaku Hosen. The purpose is improving efficiency of maintenance department to prevent 8 major losses. So number 1, the activities are daily measures, periodic maintenance, preventive maintenance, by which you can extend the lifespan, spare parts management, failure analysis, and prevention of recurrence. So these are the activities which are taking place in this. Nothing but you have plans everywhere. What are you going to do on a daily basis? What will be doing in the part of periodic maintenance? What are the activities related to predictive and preventive maintenance? Then how will you improve the lifespan of each part? How will you maintain the spare parts? So these are the activities involved in this pillar. The next pillar is very important, which is the most important pillar in any organization, which is the quality maintenance. This is called Hinshichu Ozen. Achieve zero defects by supporting and maintaining equipment conditions. This is the purpose. So the activities involved are verify quality characteristic, standard, defect phenomena, and performance. What you are supposed to do is, what is the property of the product needed? Is it as per the standard? What is the defect phenomena? Phenomena means the problem, and how it affects the performance. You understand that? In investigating the conditions for building the quality at all stages. Suppose there are 10 processes involved in making a product. At all the 10 processes, you have to build the quality. You have to set up the controls at all the 10 processes. Investigating, analyzing, and improving the conditions of malfunction. If there are any malfunctioning taking place in any of the places, so you will have to investigate, you have to analyze, and improve the conditions. Setting 3M conditions. 3M means man, machine, material conditions. Setting standard values for inspection. So fundamentally, you take a defective product, you analyze you analyze the process by way of man, machine, and material, and what the members who are going to be involved will be the QA staff, production engineering staff, and the line group. Can you sum up the quality? Hello,
अच्छा चलो कहाँ से
hello.
हम रजा हो ये भीड़ हो जाए रास्ता पर हम शनिवार से पर भीड़ तो ओછી हो जाए रास्ता पर रजा हो એવું લાગે
Must have heard 4 sigma, 6 sigma, and all. I'm very sure you would have come across this word. 6 sigma product quality, 4 sigma product quality. So I can explain you when your process meets customer specification and the variations match, we call it a sigma quality. Suppose your process is at 2 sigma level, you must be producing a defective of 3,08,537 per million. If your process is just meeting the customer specification, which we call 3 sigma, you will be producing 66,807 defectives. That is when your product just meets the customer specification. If you have a 4 sigma quality, which means your customer say the tolerance is 100, your tolerance is 75, still you will be producing 6,210 defective components. 5 sigma is if your customer tolerance is 100, your tolerance is 60, you will be producing 233 parts per million. 6 sigma means if your customer tolerance is 100, you are producing with a tolerance of 50, which is half of the tolerance. You will be producing 3.4 defects per million. You can say 3.4 millions per opportunities. I can quote two very good examples. You know, Mumbai Dabbawalas. Mumbai Dabbawalas, they carry more than a million dabbas in a day. The Mumbai Dabbawalas performance is fitted against 6 sigma capability. There are 3.4 defects per million opportunities. The uneducated people, by simple sign language, are able to succeed a 6 sigma process of carrying the dabbas back and forth from home to the office and back. So that's how the capability of any process is measured. So it is very important for us to improve the sigma capability of the process. You can imagine from a 3 sigma level, if you move to a 5 sigma level, you are reducing not less than 65,000 parts per million. So just imagine, by improving the variation in the process, you are able to reduce the rejections. So that's how the focus is very, very high on quality maintenance. The next pillar is initial phase control of products and equipment. That is, when you start up a new equipment, there are hiccups, early stage instabilities, which are getting into the process as well as into the product. So the purpose of this is to reduce product development and the prototyping time. Similarly, when you develop a new product, you tend to waste a lot of time and material. So the purpose is to reduce all these things. Second is reducing development, design and fabrication time of equipment. So when you want to develop an equipment, you want to design and fabricate an equipment, you should do it at faster time. Improving one-shot startup stability of products and equipment. So now for example, during the recent COVID, we were struggling to produce the ventilators. If the time had been, if the time had been shortened, by now we would have had a lot of ventilators. At the same time, you look at the safety wear, whatever they produce overnight. I think we moved from a zero capacity to 1 lakh per day capacity. So these are certain examples which you can see. Similarly, by the time you want to introduce a new product, you should be introducing it in a very short span of time for your competitor enters. So otherwise, if you delay the process, the competitor will gain the advantage and you must be getting to lose whatever you gain by way of marketing software. So it becomes very important for you the product development and prototyping time should be reduced. Design and development and fabrication time must be reduced. And when you start up the production, it should be pakka. We call it first time right approach. When you produce the first product, it should meet the customer specification. So this is one short startup stability of production equipment. So what are you going to do in this? So number one, setting design and development goals. So generally, when you set up a new product, you should set up stringent design and development goals. Second, ease of production, QA implementation, and ease of use. The production should be very easy to produce. Quality assurance should be there throughout the organization, and product usage and your assurance system must be ease for using. The third is ease of use, maintenance, and reliability. The product should be easy to use, free from maintenance, and highly reliable. Release of drawing after design validation. The moment you complete a design, the drawing has to be released without any delay. Identify problems in the prototypes, trial run, and subsequent stages to provide the best solution. So when the product is at the prototype stage itself, you have to take care of it. I don't want to gain a car which came in the market and subsequently was withdrawn. See, the total length of the car was supposed to be 230 for hatchback. If it exceeds the 230, then it fall under the category of sedans. So the tax structure needs to be different for sedans as well as for hatchbacks. Unfortunately, when this car was produced, it was 235. So they had to sell it at a higher price, which put them at a competitive disadvantage, and they had to withdraw this in the market. This for 1 centimeter increase. Had they checked their drawing, had they checked the prototyping properly, this mistake could not have been committed. So the car, even though it is a wonderful car, had a commercial disadvantage. So design in the initial phase control is very important. A TPM emphasizes this. Pillar number 6 of his TPM. So most of you must be wondering how the TPM can be practiced at our offices. So what does this do? The purpose of this is to create efficient officers. It is enabling you to achieve zero function losses. That's very important. You have zero function losses. It also helps implementation of support function for production departments. So your services can be supportively provided to the production departments if it is a manufacturing setup. What are the activities involved? Number one, initial cleanup of working personal space. Wherever you are working, the first step starts with the cleaning up. Second is reducing the inventory, work inventory at your place. Work inventory, which is there may be some non-value added activities be there. You can prioritize and work, allocate your work suitably. The third is countermeasures of problems. Whatever problems you face in your area, you can work out countermeasures. Standardization, creating the standard. Promotion of autonomous maintenance activities through projects by individuals, as shown in the next column. is what are the projects typically done in offices? Number one, shortening of settlement schedules. Suppose the settlement schedules take a lot of time, we select a project to reduce the settlement schedules. Second, improvement of distribution. And third, improvement of purchasing and subcontracting. Fourth, reformation of production control system. These are some of the projects which can be taken under Office DPM and successfully done. So, leaders and members of administration and other non-manufacturing department shall take part in this. I can solve some major losses in the office. Processing loss, cost loss, including in areas such as procurement, accounts, marketing, sales, leading to higher inventories. There may be communication losses, losses due to idleness, setup losses, accuracy losses, office equipment breaks down. Typically, it happens with IT systems, communication channel breakdown, telephone and fax lines breakdown, time spent on retrieval of information. By the way, the JAP, we talked about JAP. If you want to showcase any improvement to them, all the backup papers should be shown to them within 15 seconds. The retrieval time is 15 seconds. If you don't show the things in 15 seconds, they take it for granted you are not organized. Non-availability of correct online stock status, customer complaints due to logistics, expenses on emergency dispatches, and purchase. Actually, there is a thing called a premium freight. When the dispatch to the customers is not done on time, then all the necessities come up, all the urgencies come up. You have to send the material on time. Some people pay extra. Some people may even send short quantities. In place of 10 tons in a truck, they only put 5 tons in a truck and pay double the money. These are all called premium freights. So these premium freights is one of the losses on account of lack of TPM in the office. There are 7 types of losses in office. One is a value loss. So what is the phenomenon? It is obsolete work of production which is unused or rarely used. So what affects elimination or simplification of the work and reduction of expenses? So when you do an improvement, you will be able to eliminate and simplify the work. The second type is the processing loss. There may be redundancy, there may be mistakes, redoing, or readjusted processes. After improvement, you can streamline more efficient operations. Third loss is the accuracy loss. The level of accuracy, certainty, or roughness will be lost. After improvement, the accuracy improves, coordination improves. You avoid avoidance of excessive accuracy. In some cases, you may not need so much of an accuracy, so you can avoid excessive accuracy also. Speed and timing loss. The time required, the timing, you are doing at a wrong time or you are taking lot of time. So that is an indication. After making improvement, the time required is reduced, higher processed volume, and improved timing. The next loss is idling loss. Waiting time is more, transferring time is more, searching time is more. So your efficiency improves, you reduce the expenses because of this. The sixth loss is the communication loss. So the level of communication, the level of cooperation, and the level of response generally is lost. So if you make an improvement, you will have correct delivery timing and time periods. The seventh loss is cost loss. Processing cost, and how money is spent. So that's a phenomenon. If you make an improvement, you have cost reduction and you have price reduction. So these are the typical 7 major losses in the administrative and indirect departments. So one can list all the problems related to this and work on this. Office TPM helps you in identifying and eliminating these 7 types of losses. Education and training is the pillar number 7. The purpose is establishment of technical education for operations and maintenance workers, which means you are technically educating them, people who are involved in operations and maintenance, technically educating them. I gave you a flavor of 1 point lesson earlier. Similarly, you create a standard and educate the people. So, what are the activities involved? The first one, basic process of maintenance. So, fix the process of maintenance, tightening nuts and bolts. So, how to take maintenance, how to tighten nuts and bolts, aligning keys and maintenance of bearings, how you have to align the keys, how you have to maintain the bearings, and what are the maintenance activities on various parts. How will you prevent leaks? These are the 5 major activities you have to definitely work. These are very commonly seen in all the plants, all the manufacturing plants. So if you divide all these 5, address all these 5, that gives a very good education to all the workmen. So maintenance of oil pressure, for example, air pressure equipment, maintenance of electrical control equipment. These are some examples. How will you maintain oil pressure equipment, air pressure equipment, electrical equipment? So if you prepare a maintenance standard for all these things, it will help educate your employees on operations as well as maintenance. I'm showing you an example. This is called a skill matrix. There is a circle. As you can see, there are 6 parts in the circle. The 6 parts are related to A, B, C, D, E, F. A is the basic work, B is the drive unit, C is the lubrication, D is pneumatic, E hydraulic, and F is electrical. And there are 4 levels of skill. Right? Number 1, level 1 means he understands intellectually. Level 2 means he can perform work to some extent. Level 3 means can perform work with confidence. Level 4 means he can teach others. So for every individual, you can see the individual names. For every individual, for each of the 6 activities, where does he stand? Which level he stands? Suppose a person accomplishes level 4 in all, you'll see a complete radar outside. So this is a radar shot, right? You can see whichever level he is in, you map it, and you can get a drawing. So you will see a complete radar chart of 6 into 4, 24. This is how, wherever the radar is shortened, you know that person has to become competent in that area. So when you educate the person, he becomes competent enough, and his competency is measured by way of this skill matrix, which tells you the effectiveness of your education and training. This is one of the best tools used for the effectiveness of education. So where do they stand at each of this? This is only an example. Using this, some people use a 4-quadrant scale. For each of the item, they take it 4 quadrants. Always the first quadrant used to be the beginner, second quadrant used to be learner, and third quadrant used to be proficient, fourth quadrant used to be master. So like this, they do the 4 quadrant scale also for each of the activities. This is another way of approach. Purpose here is educate the person, train the person, make him competent, measure the effectiveness of his work by way of skill matrix. The last pillar is safety, health, and environment, which is popularly known as SHE. The realization of healthy and invigorating workplace that gives meaningful work, achievement, and support of zero failures. So you make a safe environment, it helps to achieve, and it also supports zero failures. So what are the activities? Number one, measures to improve equipment safety. Equipment has to be safe. It's very, very important. Understand the unsafe conditions in any equipment and correct them. Measures to improve work safety. How do they perform the work? Are they performing unsafe act? Number one, unsafe condition of the machine. Number two, unsafe act by the person. And third is improvement of work environment. Is there noise? Is there vibration? Or is there odor? Any gases emerging? So all these things. And actions to prevent pollution. So which is again very important from the point of view of legal as well as health condition of the individual. Creation of healthy employees carrying out invigorating activities. So basically the work spot becomes unsafe because of two major things. Unsafe condition of the machines and the environment, then unsafe act performed by the employees. So we have to focus on these two and immediately correct, create the standards and ensure that they follow the activities and the mission conditions are. You should also ensure the work environment is noise free, vibration free, and odor free. We also act to prevent the pollution and you have to create healthy employees. You know, some of you must be having the standards like ISO 40001, ISO 43001, or OSHA's. ISO 14001 is Environment Management System, which means it talks about the environment, how to keep the environment clean, and how to manage the environment. It talks about a study called Aspect and Impact. Aspect and impact means what are the aspects of the way of you work and what is the impact on the environment. Like the impact on the ground, impact on the air, impact on the water. So you have to study that and take appropriate action to reduce the impact. And the ISO 45001 or OSHA's, this talks about an analysis called HERA, HIRA, which is hazard identification and risk assessment. While you do your work, what are the hazards involved in that and what is the risk? So you measure it and you take controls by which you can reduce those hazards. So you explain your work, explain the way you do in each process and each work. You analyze what are the hazards involved in that and what are the controls to ensure that the risk is done away with. So that's the purpose of HERA. So if you want to create healthy employees, you want to create a healthy environment, the aspect impact study and hazard identification and risk assessment study must be completed. Whether you have a certification or not, you do these things and work towards the employee welfare and the welfare of the environment. So for this purpose, you do and you also create integrating activities. In fact, I know some of the companies, they start with exercise in the morning. Even their canteen has got healthy food. They specifically say low calorie food. They also give some nutritious food to their employees, thereby maintaining the invigorating aspect. So members involved in this pillars, she manages and specialized workers.